It was a Tuesday, April 13, 2021. The morning air in Hendersonville, North Carolina was brisk, typical for spring in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Light fog curled along the sidewalks, wrapping itself around mailboxes and empty porches. By 7:45 a.m., the sun had started to break through, casting a soft golden light on the town's quiet streets. Melissa Carter, 35, left her duplex on Sycamore Street like she always did, dressed in a soft navy blue cardigan, a cream blouse, and dark jeans. Her hair was up in a loose bun. Her travel mug was full of dark roast, and she wore that usual half smile that said she was already thinking about the day ahead. She wasn't someone who left things to chance. Melissa was routine, disciplined, consistent. She left for work at exactly 7:52 a.m., as captured by her neighbor's doorbell camera. She stepped into her silver Honda Civic, backed out of the driveway, and turned right toward downtown. That was the last confirmed sighting of Melissa Carter alive. An ordinary life. Melissa worked at the Appalachian Art Museum, a small, local institution known for its rotating exhibits on Appalachian culture, textile work, and regional photography. She was the museum's outreach and community engagement coordinator, a position she'd held for 5 years. Everyone loved her. She was described as warm, professional, but never nosy. She had a knack for remembering details about people's lives, their kids' names, their dog's birthday, their favorite kind of tea. She volunteered at the community garden on weekends, led a book club once a month at the library, and on Friday nights, she often hosted quiet dinners at her home for a small circle of close friends. She was single, by choice. Her last serious relationship ended 2 years earlier. She had no known enemies, no known grudges. But by 11:15 a.m. that Tuesday, her supervisor began to worry. Melissa had missed the weekly staff meeting, something she'd never done without advance notice. By 12:30 p.m., calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. By 1 p.m., one of her coworkers, Jamie Perez, drove past the museum parking lot. Melissa's car wasn't there. By 2:30 p.m., her best friend Emily, concerned, knocked on Melissa's door. No answer. Her dog, Bramble, a golden retriever, was still inside, barking, pacing, agitated. Melissa never left Bramble alone for more than a few hours, let alone all day without food or a bathroom break. At 6:10 p.m., Melissa's mother, Sharon Carter, called the Hendersonville Police Department to request a welfare check. The empty house. Patrol Officer Jenna Rawls arrived at the residence at 6:38 p.m. She knocked several times before letting herself in using the spare key that Sharon had dropped off. The home was spotless. Nothing was broken. Nothing was stolen. Melissa's keys and phone were missing. But her purse was still there, on the kitchen counter, along with her wallet and driver's license. There was no sign of a struggle. No blood. No forced entry. Her bed was made. Her closet was untouched. Her shoes, neatly placed by the door, were missing only the pair she had been wearing that morning. It was as if she had vanished into the fog. Without a trace, without a sound. The case was immediately classified as a missing person. But deep down, those closest to her already knew. Melissa Carter didn't just leave. Something had happened to her. The following morning, April 14th, Hendersonville woke up to flyers on lampposts, email blasts, and urgent Facebook posts. The local paper, the Times News, ran the headline on its website. Local museum worker missing. Police ask for public's help. Melissa Carter's name and face were suddenly everywhere. By 8 a.m., the small-town police department had assigned 2 detectives to the case. Detective Carl Winslow, a 23-year veteran of the force, and Detective Lila McCrae, younger, tech-savvy, and sharp-eyed. They started by retracing Melissa's steps. The last known footage of her was from the neighbor's Ring doorbell camera at 7:52 a.m., where she appeared calm and focused. No one was seen following her. No signs of distress. Her silver Honda Civic had also vanished. That was their first priority. Find the car. Digital footprints and dead ends. By mid-morning, they'd secured a warrant to access Melissa's phone records and bank statements. Last phone activity. A text sent at 7:47 a.m. to her coworker. Jamie. Running a couple minutes behind. Be there soon smiley face. No calls or texts after that. No pings. No location data. Her bank card hadn't been used since the previous afternoon. No ATM withdrawals. No suspicious online charges. Detectives visited the museum and interviewed everyone on staff. Nobody had seen or heard from her since Monday evening. She had no ex-boyfriends causing drama. No stalkers. She wasn't depressed. She wasn't planning to move. Melissa Carter simply did not fit the profile of someone who walked away from her life. The inner circle. They started with those closest to her. Sharon Carter was interviewed for over 2 hours. She was composed but deeply shaken. She swore her daughter would never go off the grid without telling her. We talk every night at 9 p.m. even if she's sick. Or tired. Or away on a trip. She always checks in. Emily Weaver, Melissa's best friend, confirmed the same. She was so solid, stable, reliable. I know people say that when someone disappears. But with Melissa, it was true. The detectives pressed. Did Melissa mention anyone new in her life? A recent date? Someone from the museum? Any tension? Any fights? Emily hesitated. Then she said one name. Nathan Bell. Nathan Bell, 39, was a local contractor. Melissa had hired him 4 months earlier to renovate her kitchen, a modest project that had turned into a longer working relationship. He'd replaced cabinets, installed new floors, even helped with landscaping, Emily recalled. She said he was a bit quiet, kept to himself. But he was polite. She joked that he looked like a lumberjack, flannel shirts and all. I thought she might have had a tiny crush. But she never admitted it. Nathan's name hadn't come up in any of Melissa's digital records. No texts, no emails, but the detectives decided to pay him a visit. A strange vibe. Nathan Bell lived alone on the edge of town, in a cabin-style home tucked into the woods off Old Pine Creek Road. He opened the door after 2 knocks. Tall, bearded, calm, no visible injuries, no signs of panic. When asked about Melissa, he said, "Yeah, I did some work at her place. Finished a few weeks ago. She was nice, paid on time, haven't seen her since." He didn't ask why they were inquiring. He didn't ask if she was okay. When detectives told him she was missing, he blinked once, then shrugged. Something didn't sit right. It wasn't enough for an arrest, or even a formal interview, but it was enough for a flag. Nathan Bell went on their list. 2 days after Melissa Carter vanished, on the evening of April 15, a call came in to the Henderson County Sheriff's Department. A park ranger from Pisgah National Forest, about 35 miles north of Melissa's home, reported something odd. There's a silver Honda Civic parked at the Cold Creek trailhead. It's been sitting here for at least 48 hours. No one's claimed it. It's unlocked. The license plate matched. It was Melissa's car. The scene in the forest. By 8 p.m., detectives Winslow and McCrae arrived on site. The Cold Creek trailhead was remote. Not the kind of place tourists went. No restrooms. No maps. Just a dirt lot that funneled into dense pine forest. Locals used it for hiking, hunting, or isolation. Melissa wasn't a camper. She had never hiked here before. Her friends were adamant. She didn't even like the woods. The car was unlocked. Keys were missing. Her phone wasn't in the vehicle. But her jacket was, folded neatly on the passenger seat. Inside the trunk, detectives found a spare blanket, a plastic water bottle, unopened, an empty brown paper lunch bag, a faint smear of something reddish on the carpet lining. They collected everything, especially the smear. Forensics swabbed it. It wasn't ketchup. It was blood. The footprints. What chilled them more was the pair of footprints leading away from the car and into the forest. They were shallow, as if made on damp ground that had since dried, but still traceable. One set. No return path. Melissa's size. Search teams were deployed within the hour. By 10:30 p.m., more than 20 volunteers with headlamps and thermal drones were combing Cold Creek. No signs of Melissa. No torn clothing. No broken branches. No signs of a struggle, or a body. But one dog team stopped cold about 3 miles in. They barked, circled, sniffed, and then sat down beside the base of a tree, refusing to move. Beneath the soil, a shallow depression. It had been disturbed, and recovered, within the past 48 hours. They brought in a forensic dig team. By 2:15 a.m., they had their answer. Buried evidence. It wasn't Melissa, but it was something. Wrapped in a black plastic trash bag. They recovered a woman's burner phone, still powered off, a kitchen knife, rusted at the tip, a pair of women's socks, dark blue with small white hearts. A receipt from a local hardware store, dated April 10. Melissa had gone missing on April 13. The receipt predated that. Was it related? Or was this an entirely separate crime? What was clear was this. Someone had buried something they didn't want found. Just days before Melissa's disappearance, and only a short walk from where her car had been dumped. The evidence found in the shallow forest grave was puzzling. The socks matched a pair Melissa's mother remembered seeing in her laundry a week prior. The burner phone didn't belong to Melissa, it was a cheap prepaid model. Sold at gas stations or dollar stores. Likely untraceable. But the receipt, that was different. It was from Blackwood Hardware, a small local shop only 6 miles from where Melissa lived. Time stamp, April 10, 2021 to 4:27 p.m. Purchased items: 1 roll of heavy-duty trash bags, 1 folding camp shovel, 1 quart of bleach. The clerk's name on the receipt, N. Bell. Detective Lila McRae felt her chest tighten. Nathan Bell, the contractor, the man who claimed he hadn't seen Melissa in weeks. The man who didn't flinch when told she was missing. The man who lived alone on the edge of the forest. Back to Blackwood. Detectives returned to Blackwood Hardware the next morning and asked to review security footage. The owners were cooperative. In a town like Hendersonville, everyone knew Melissa Carter, and everyone wanted her found. The store had a single ceiling-mounted camera over the register. At 4:27 p.m. on April 10, the footage showed a man in a gray flannel shirt, short dark hair, well-kept beard, wearing construction boots, paying in cash. He didn't say much, just pointed, nodded, paid, then left. The timestamp, the items, and the signature matched. Detective Winslow looked at the screen and whispered, "That's him. That's Nathan Bell." A knock at the cabin. That afternoon, police secured a warrant and returned to Nathan's cabin, this time with backup. Nathan answered the door, same calm demeanor. But when he saw the uniformed officer holding a search warrant, his face twitched, just barely. He stepped aside, let them in. The cabin was small but neat. Too neat. No clutter. No signs of a recent kitchen renovation project, though he claimed to be working freelance. No dirty boots. No garbage. Everything had been wiped down. Bleach was still in the air. But then, inside the shed behind the house, tucked behind firewood, they found a shovel, a folding camp shovel, caked with reddish-brown soil. Bagged, tagged, sent to the lab. In the crawlspace beneath the cabin, they found something else. A small duffel bag. Inside, Melissa's missing phone, factory reset, but still carrying her name etched inside the case. A pair of gardening gloves. A torn envelope addressed to Melissa Carter, 142 Sycamore Street. And, chillingly, a photo of Melissa, taken candidly from a distance. In her backyard, with her dog Bramble. They had enough to arrest Nathan Bell on suspicion of abduction. But not for murder. Not yet. Because there was still no body. And Nathan, from the moment he was cuffed and placed in the back of the patrol car, refused to say a word. Nathan Bell sat in interview room 2 of the Henderson County Sheriff's Office. Arms crossed, eyes half-lidded, emotionless. The room was quiet. A single overhead light buzzed softly. Across the metal table sat Detective Carl Winslow, veteran of 2 decades and dozens of interrogations. "We found her phone, Nathan. We found her socks. We know about the bleach. The shovel, the trash bags." Nathan didn't flinch. "We know you bought them. We have the receipt. We saw you on camera." Nothing. No anger. No denial. No confusion. Just silence. Detective Lila McRae stood behind the one-way mirror. Watching, she whispered to the sergeant beside her. He's not just refusing to talk. He's in control, like he expected this. After 17 minutes, Winslow slid a printed photo across the table, Melissa's face. Smiling, her dog in her arms. Where is she, Nathan? Just tell us where she is. Nathan's eyes dropped to the photo. Then he smiled. A soft, cold, crooked smile. Not of joy, but of power. He leaned back, and said the first words since his arrest. You won't find her. Not unless I want you to. Legal lines. Within the hour, Nathan's attorney arrived, Elise Marlowe. A sharp, fast-talking public defender with a reputation for getting charges dropped on technicalities. She shut the interview down. My client has no further statements at this time. If you intend to charge him, do so. If not, release him. The DA's office scrambled. They had circumstantial evidence, suspicious behavior, Melissa's phone and personal items on his property. A motive? Unclear. No signs of obsession, no love letters, no threats, but no witnesses, no confession, and most importantly, no body. The pressure mounts. The media storm erupted. Local news stations led with headlines like, "Contractor arrested in connection to Melissa Carter disappearance." National outlets picked it up within 24 hours. Outside the sheriff's office, candles and handwritten signs piled up. Bring Melissa home. Justice for Melissa. Do the right thing. Nathan, Emily, Melissa's best friend, appeared on local TV, barely holding it together. She wouldn't leave without telling someone. If she was alive, we'd know. He knows what happened, and he's playing games. Sharon Carter, Melissa's mother, refused interviews. She stayed inside, curtains closed, phone off, waiting, hoping. But as the 72-hour hold deadline approached, the sheriff's office had a brutal decision to make. Charge a man with murder, without a body, or risk releasing a possible killer back into the woods. April 17th. It had been 4 full days since Melissa Carter was last seen. Nathan Bell sat in a holding cell, staring blankly at the concrete wall. His lawyer was working the phones, demanding to know whether her client would be officially charged or released. And the detectives? They were racing against the clock, with only 72 hours to file charges or let him go. Detective McRae had been on her feet for 30 straight hours. She knew they were close, but not close enough. We've got blood, she told the DA. We've got her phone, her socks, the receipt for the shovel he bought 3 days before she vanished. The district attorney, James Adler, wasn't convinced. That's all circumstantial. You think a defense attorney won't eat that alive in court? There's no surveillance of him with her. No DNA linking him to the actual crime, if there even was a crime. No body, no cause of death, no timeline. Detective Winslow stepped in. If we let him go, he disappears, he runs, or worse, he finishes what he started. They argued for hours, but at 6:52 p.m., just minutes before the 72-hour window closed, DA Adler made the call. Nathan Bell was formally charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder, even though Melissa's body hadn't been found. The media went wild. Murder charge without a body, read the headlines. Some praised the DA for boldness. Others warned it was a gamble. They were all right. The defense strikes back. At arraignment, Nathan pleaded not guilty. Elise Marlowe, his attorney, was confident, poised, and utterly ruthless. In her press briefing outside the courthouse, she said, "This is a case built on assumptions. There's no confession, no eyewitness, no forensics tying Nathan Bell to any act of violence. And most importantly, no proof that Melissa Carter is even dead." The courtroom buzzed. Inside, Sharon Carter, eyes puffy from crying, gripped a small velvet pouch in her hand, Melissa's favorite necklace. She refused to speak to the media, but her stare toward Nathan was ice cold. Emily, Melissa's best friend, wasn't so silent. "He thinks because there's no body, he'll get away with it. But the town knows. Her friends know. I just hope the jury sees through him. A dangerous precedent. Back at the station, McRae and Winslow sat quietly in their office. They'd gotten the charge, but had they gotten justice? Without a confession or a breakthrough, this case would go to trial based on suspicion and circumstance. And that scared them more than they were willing to admit. Because if Nathan Bell didn't break, if they couldn't find Melissa, if the jury hesitated, a murderer could walk free. With the trial date months away, detectives focused on what they could still control, finding Melissa, or at the very least, proving she was dead, and more importantly, how Nathan Bell was involved. They went back to the basics. The timeline. Melissa Carter was last seen April 13, 6:10 p.m., leaving her job at Pinewood Real Estate. She told her coworker she was heading home to feed her dog. Bramble was found unfed, roaming the backyard alone at 8 p.m. Nathan Bell claimed he hadn't seen Melissa in over a week. But cell tower pings told a different story. His phone pinged near Sycamore Street, Melissa's block, at 6:23 p.m. on April 13. Just 13 minutes after she left work. He had no reason to be there. When asked again, Nathan's lawyer insisted he was probably driving to a gas station. But the closest gas station was 2 miles away, and in the opposite direction. The text message. Then came a breakthrough. One of Melissa's friends, Carla Jenkins, had received a text from Melissa at 6:35 p.m. that night. It read, "Hey, quick change of plans. Have to meet someone about the garden lights. Be home later. Can you check on Bramble?" That message stood out. Melissa never asked others to check on her dog. She always did it herself. Always. But most importantly, Carla had responded. "Sure. Who are you meeting?" No reply. Ever again. The phone's metadata, after forensic recovery, showed the message had been composed on a different keyboard than Melissa usually used. Her text style changed. Her punctuation was off. The conclusion? It was likely written by someone else using Melissa's phone, said FBI tech consultant Jeremy Shaw. Someone who wanted to delay a missing person report. Someone like her killer. The home security surprise. But the biggest crack came from a neighbor. 2 houses down from Melissa's home. An older man named Frank Beasley had a doorbell camera that had never been checked until now. And on April 13, at 6:32 p.m., the camera captured a silver Honda Civic pulling into Melissa's driveway. A figure, likely Melissa, stepping out. A second person already standing on the porch. A man. The resolution was blurry, but the posture, height, build, it looked a lot like Nathan Bell. The man stepped forward. Melissa paused. They talked. Then she opened the door and let him inside. That was the last time Melissa Carter was seen alive. On April 22, 9 days after Melissa disappeared, detectives returned to 142 Sycamore Street, this time with a new warrant and a forensic team armed with luminol and blacklight equipment. Why? Because now they knew Melissa got home. And someone was already waiting for her. A second look. The first time they searched the house, it had looked perfectly normal. Door was locked. Dishes in the sink. Mail unopened. Bed neatly made. No visible signs of struggle. But now, with video confirmation of Melissa entering the house with Nathan Bell, the team wasn't just looking for obvious. They were looking for traces. They started in the living room, nothing. Kitchen, a few minor smudges. Nothing unusual. But when they got to the hallway leading to the basement, the luminol lit up. 2 faint streaks, about 12 inches long, just below the baseboard, not visible to the naked eye, but under blacklight, unmistakable. Blood spray, and more chillingly, the outline of a handprint on the wall, as if someone reached out while falling or being dragged. They followed it. The basement clue. The basement door was unlocked. Creaky, uninsulated, and always a little damp, according to Melissa's mother. But tonight, it felt different. Inside, they found dust, but part of the floor had been wiped clean in an irregular, circular pattern. In the corner, a storage shelf had a broken bracket and was leaning oddly, like it had been hit. They lifted the shelf. Below it, between two old boxes of Christmas ornaments, they found a small bloodstain seeping into the wooden floorboards, two blonde hairs stuck to the splintered wood, and a single earring, gold hoop, still with a tiny trace of blood. Melissa had been wearing hoops the day she vanished. There was no longer any doubt. Something violent happened here. The missing 45 minutes. Detective Winslow reconstructed the timeline. 6:10 p.m. Melissa leaves work. 6:23 p.m. Nathan's phone pings near her home. 6:32 p.m. Doorbell cam shows her entering with a man. 6:35 p.m. Suspicious text sent to Carla. 7:20 p.m. Neighbor's backyard cam catches Bramble barking wildly. 7:35 p.m. Nathan's phone suddenly goes dark. 45 minutes. That's all it took. Whatever happened to Melissa, it happened fast, quiet, and was planned. And now they had what they needed. Blood evidence in the house. Her belongings at his cabin. His lies about where he was. A motive beginning to emerge. It was time to build the case. And make sure Nathan Bell never walked free again. Detective Lila McRae knew something was missing. Nathan Bell wasn't just a man with a shovel and bleach. He was calculated, cold, confident. You won't find her, he had said. Not unless I want you to. No remorse. No panic. Just control. That level of detachment doesn't appear overnight. It's learned. Which meant, Nathan Bell had done this before. The call from Virginia. It started with a routine background check. Nathan Bell had lived in Virginia between 2012 and 2017, mostly in the small rural town of Waynesboro. No arrests. No charges. Just a few odd jobs. A few rentals. But something caught McRae's eye. In 2014, a 32-year-old woman named Claire Dunning vanished without a trace. She was a part-time art teacher, living in a cabin outside of town. She was last seen at a hardware store buying gardening tools. Sound familiar? Claire's case had gone cold. Her car was found parked at a trailhead. Phone gone, wallet gone, and no body was ever recovered. When McRae pulled the full report, her pulse quickened. On the witness list from the hardware store? Nathan Bell. He was working there at the time. Interviewed once. Said he didn't know her. Never questioned again. McRae picked up the phone. We need to talk to Waynesboro PD. Immediately. Patterns and red flags. FBI profiler Dr. Janice Ellery was called in to help. She reviewed both cases, Melissa Carter and Claire Dunning, and laid it out plainly. If these crimes are connected, we're not looking at a heat-of-the-moment offender. This is someone who plans, stalks, and targets women with methodical precision. And someone who thrives on control, even after the act. Both women were independent, lived alone, loved the outdoors, disappeared in spring, and had vague associations with Nathan Bell. He doesn't want recognition, Ellery added. He wants silence, erasure. He didn't leave messages. He didn't chase attention. He made women disappear, quietly. The missing link. Back in Hendersonville, detectives dug into Nathan's phone records from before Melissa vanished. 2 weeks earlier, there were 6 late-night calls to a number registered under W. Crane. That turned out to be Walter Crane, a recently deceased man, but the phone was still active. It had been purchased online under a fake name, delivered to a P.O. box, rented by Nathan Bell. It was a burner phone, the same one found in the shallow forest grave. Melissa never had that number saved, yet texts were sent from it to her phone. On April 12, can meet TMRW. Just you and me. Talk about the lights. Detective McRae leaned back in her chair. He lured her. He used a fake number to set the meeting. And he walked into her house already knowing she'd be home alone. It wasn't random. It was hunting. And now they had proof that Melissa Carter wasn't Nathan Bell's first victim. She was just the first one he got caught for. July 14, the first day of the trial. A humid summer morning in Ashe County Courthouse, North Carolina. Lines wrapped around the building before sunrise. Reporters, locals, true crime podcasters, all waiting for a seat. The state versus Nathan Daniel Bell. Charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, obstruction of justice. The opening salvo. District Attorney James Adler stood before the jury. Melissa Carter was a daughter, a friend, a light in her community. She walked into her own home that night, and never walked out again. And the man responsible is sitting in this courtroom. He laid out the state's case. Surveillance footage, cell tower data, blood evidence in Melissa's basement, the fake burner phone, and the striking similarity to the Claire Dunning disappearance. Then came Elise Marlowe, Nathan's defense attorney, slick, articulate, charismatic. She didn't waste time. Ladies and gentlemen, the state cannot prove Melissa Carter is dead. They cannot prove Nathan Bell killed her. And they certainly cannot prove that the evidence they've collected adds up to murder. This case is built on suggestion, speculation, hunches. She promised the jury a lesson in presumption of innocence. No body, no confession, no crime. The first bombshell. But then came Detective McRae, the prosecution's first key witness. She testified to the search, the basement blood evidence, and, crucially, the recovered text message Melissa never sent. Then she dropped it. We discovered fingerprints on the inside of Melissa's basement door. They matched Nathan Bell. The defense objected. Timing, relevance, contamination. The judge overruled. McRae continued. The print was fresh, and it was on the inside of the door, which Melissa never used. It's a locked door that leads nowhere unless you're trying to hide something. The jury reacts, gasps. A few jurors scribbled frantic notes. Others stared at Nathan. He remained emotionless, hands folded, eyes flat. But to the prosecution, it was the first real crack in his facade. The Forrest testimony. Next up, search volunteer Karen Ortega. She was the one who found Melissa's sock in the woods. On the stand, her voice trembled. It was under a pile of brush. The same kind of brush Nathan Bell had stacked behind his cabin. It wasn't just thrown, it was placed. The state then showed the jury photos of the sock, the earring found in the basement, the trail camera image of Nathan carrying a shovel 3 days earlier. It painted a story, one of preparation, movement, and concealment, a game-changing moment. Just before the day ended, the prosecution dropped its surprise witness, Samantha Elridge, Nathan's ex-girlfriend from Virginia. She took the stand reluctantly but firmly. He hated being told, no, she said. When I broke up with him in 2016, he showed up at my cabin at 2 a.m., pounding on the door. He had a shovel in his car. Said he was just gardening. I didn't let him in. The courtroom fell silent. This wasn't just about Melissa anymore. This was a pattern, a warning ignored. And for the first time, the jury saw Nathan Bell not just as a suspect, but as a predator. The second week of the trial, public opinion was swinging hard against Nathan Bell, especially after the eerie testimony of his ex-girlfriend, Samantha Elridge. But Elise Marlowe wasn't rattled. She was methodical. Her goal wasn't to prove Nathan's innocence. It was to make the jury unsure. You don't have to like him, she told them in her opening rebuttal. You just have to doubt that the state proved its case, undermining the evidence. Marlowe's first move was to attack the science. She called in a private forensic consultant, Dr. Robert Fellman, to dispute the luminol results. Luminol lights up for a variety of substances, not just blood. He testified. Bleach, metal residue, even some plant enzymes. It's an indicator, not a confirmation. He acknowledged blood was found, but couldn't confirm it was Melissa's. Then she turned to the burner phone. Has anyone actually seen Nathan Bell purchase this phone? Do we have fingerprints on the box? The SIM card? The case? No. We're assuming it's his. Because it's convenient. She drove it home. Convenient isn't the same as certain. A twist in testimony. But her boldest moment came when she cross-examined Carla Jenkins, Melissa's best friend, the woman who received the suspicious final text. Carla had always been clear and confident. But under pressure, she faltered. Marlowe pressed hard. Isn't it true that Melissa had recently reconnected with an ex-boyfriend named Chris Tanner? Did she ever mention meeting someone on the night she disappeared? Isn't it possible that she was seeing someone? Nathan Bell not included? Carla looked to the prosecution table. Nervous. She said, she was talking to someone. I didn't press. It wasn't a bombshell, but it was a seed. And that's all the defense needed. Casting shadows. Marlowe ended the day with a stunning suggestion. Melissa Carter might not be dead. She might be somewhere else. Hiding, hurting, escaping. She pointed to a 2016 case where a woman faked her own abduction for 5 weeks, citing abuse and burnout. The state is desperate for a villain. But have they truly ruled out every other explanation? Public reactions. Outside the courthouse, things grew tense. News stations ran split headlines. Red Square, Nathan Bell, manipulative killer or misunderstood victim. Green Square, defense suggests Melissa Carter may be alive, families outrage. Melissa's mother, Evelyn Carter, spoke to reporters. My daughter would never leave her dog. She would never disappear without telling us. She is not hiding. She is gone. And he did it. Inside the courtroom, jurors were stone-faced, but everyone could feel the temperature shift. Behind closed doors, that evening, in the judge's chambers, both sides argued over whether Samantha Elridge's testimony should be stricken due to prejudice. Judge Halbrook denied the motion, but warned, one more move like this and I will consider a mistrial. The battle lines had sharpened. The prosecution had built a mountain of circumstantial evidence. The defense had turned every stone into doubt. And neither side was backing down. 3 weeks into the trial, the courtroom was worn thin. The jury looked tired. Melissa's parents looked hollow. Even Nathan Bell blinked more. Then, everything changed. The forgotten backpack. Detective McCrae had revisited Nathan's hunting cabin 3 times. The last search was supposed to be routine. But this time, she opened a floor hatch in the back room, a space used for storage. In it, covered with plastic tarp and mildew, was an old hiking backpack. Inside, a library card with Melissa Carter's name, a tube of lip balm, a set of car keys, and a small black leather notebook. It was Melissa's missing journal, confirmed by her best friend Carla. The state sent it for testing. Under UV light, on the fabric near the zipper, they found a streak of blood. DNA matched Melissa. There was no longer any room for doubt. The defense argued there's no body, said Prosecutor Adler, standing in front of the jury. They were right. There isn't, because he never meant to leave one. A witness cracks. The next day, something even more shocking happened. Doug Ralston, Nathan's former coworker at the hardware store in Virginia, took the stand. Initially, he said he barely remembered Nathan. But something had changed. I lied, Doug admitted, his voice shaking. I didn't want to get involved. But, I saw him. That night Claire disappeared. His hands were scraped. His jeans were dirty. And he told me he'd been digging post holes at 11 at night. I didn't believe him, but I kept my mouth shut. The courtroom froze. Claire Dunning, the missing woman from 2014. 2 women, 2 cabins, 2 holes in the ground. Nathan reacts. It was the first time during the entire trial Nathan Bell showed emotion. He looked at Doug, wide-eyed, furious. He shook his head slowly. But it was too late. The jury had seen it. This wasn't coincidence. This was a pattern. A monster they hadn't stopped soon enough. The final blow. The prosecution ended their case with a timeline. Presented on screen. April 12 Melissa lured by burner phone. April 13 her disappearance. April 14 phone goes dark. April 17 Nathan seen dumping trash bags. April 22 blood discovered. April 30 backpack recovered. Everything ties to him, Adler said. And nothing, not one shred, clears him. Then he looked at the jury. Melissa Carter didn't vanish. She didn't run away. She didn't fake her death. She was taken. She was hurt. And Nathan Bell made sure no one would ever find her. But we did. We found the truth. He stepped back. The courtroom was silent. For the first time, Nathan looked down, and didn't look back up. August 2nd, the final day. 6 weeks of testimony, over 50 witnesses, hundreds of exhibits, 12 jurors. One truth to decide. The courtroom was full. Melissa Carter's parents held hands. Carla sat beside them, trembling. Nathan Bell stood at the defense table, unmoving. Judge Halbrook gave his final instructions. You must decide this case solely on the evidence. Not emotion, not speculation, beyond a reasonable doubt. Then the jury left. 36 hours. That's how long they deliberated. Whispers echoed through the courthouse. Would they go for manslaughter? Would the lack of a body be enough to sway them? But then, the buzzer rang. A note delivered to the judge. We have reached a verdict. The room holds its breath. Everyone stood as the jury filed back in. Juror number 4, a middle-aged woman in a blue cardigan, held the envelope. She handed it to the bailiff. The judge read silently, then nodded. Will the defendant please rise? Nathan stood, emotionless, just as he'd been from day one. In the matter of the state of North Carolina versus Nathan Daniel Bell. On the charge of first-degree murder. How do you find the defendant? Juror number 4 spoke clearly. Guilty. Gasps. Sobs. Silence. On the charge of kidnapping in the first degree? Guilty. On the charge of obstruction of justice? Guilty. Nathan didn't flinch, but his knuckles turned white as he gripped the defense table. Melissa's father buried his face in his hands. Her mother just whispered, "Thank you." Carla wept quietly. The court recessed for sentencing. The sentence. 1 week later, Judge Halbrook returned with the sentence. Mr. Bell, the evidence presented against you was clear, compelling, and deeply disturbing. You displayed no remorse, no compassion, and no humanity. You left a family in pieces and a community scarred. You will spend the rest of your life behind bars. Life without the possibility of parole. Nathan said nothing. He was escorted out of the courtroom. Shackled. No longer a ghost in the trees. No longer a man with shadows behind his eyes. Now, just a prisoner. 6 months later, the leaves had returned to the trees. Spring came early to Ashe County that year. But for Melissa Carter's family, nothing ever truly came back. Her bedroom was kept exactly the same. Books lined the shelf. A sweater still hung on the closet door. Her golden retriever, Scout, now lived with her parents. Sleeping by the front door every night. Waiting for footsteps that would never come. The memorial. In April, on the 1-year anniversary of her disappearance. The community gathered at Whispering Pines Library, the place Melissa once volunteered every Thursday. There, they unveiled a small plaque. In memory of Melissa Carter. A light that burned bright. Gone, but never forgotten. Carla read a letter. You were the first to check on me when I got sick. The first to show up when my mom passed. You were always showing up for everyone else. Now it's our turn to show up for you. Hundreds stood silent. Some wept. Others simply held candles in the wind. A family rebuilds. Evelyn and Tom Carter moved to Boone, a quieter town not far away. They didn't sell the house. They said it wasn't a home anymore, it was a monument. They started a foundation in Melissa's name, the Carter Fund for Missing Women. Its mission: provide search resources, fund cold case reviews, offer legal aid for families navigating the justice system. In just 6 months, they had helped 3 families locate loved ones. If we couldn't save Melissa, Evelyn said, we'll make damn sure someone else gets saved. Nathan Bell in prison. He now resided at Central Prison in Raleigh, under permanent isolation due to threats from other inmates. He had filed no appeals. He spoke to no one. One guard said he spent his days writing in long, obsessive loops, filling journals that never left the cell. His name faded from headlines, but not from memory. The story lingers. True crime forums debated the case for months. Some conspiracy theorists suggested Melissa might still be alive. Others claimed Nathan had more victims. But most people agreed on one thing. Evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes, it looks like a man who holds open doors. A man who smiles at your dog. A man who joins a search party for someone he buried. Blank, _ blank. Final words. If there's one lesson from this case, it's this. Justice is not always loud. Sometimes, it whispers. But it never forgets.